friends, we are at Genesis 24. We're almost halfway there. Now, this is a pretty long little chapter, so we'll see if we can get it in one video. I don't know. The heading of this is Isaac and Rebekah, or Isaac marries Rebekah. Okay, so let's see what's going on here. Abraham was now a very old man, and the Lord had blessed him in every way. Again, right off the bat, saying all blessings come from God. Lord blessed him in every way. Okay, you look back on his life, you see the Lord has shown him favor, but definitely blessed him. So the Lord's still in the business of blessings. One day, Abraham said to the man in charge of his household, who was his oldest servant, okay, so he's old enough, he's got a servant in charge of this household, but it's still under him. He's got all authority in that. Notice this at verse 3. Swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and earth, that you will not let my son marry one of these local Canaanite women. It's a big statement because, again, you see him, establishing and reaffirming again, like, the Lord, all caps, he's the God of heaven and earth, okay? This is like the foundation. There's no greater thing than to swear on his name, because it is almighty. He is all powerful. And he says, make this vow. You're not going to let my son marry one of these local Canaanite women. Okay, so let's hold on to that thought. At verse 4, go instead to my homeland, to my relatives, and find a wife there for my son Isaac. So he passes this to the servant. Make this promise, swear this, okay, that you're not going to let him marry one of these local Canaanite women. Go to my homeland, my household, my family. I need you to go there, okay? Find a wife there for my son Isaac. All right. The servant asked at verse 5, but suppose I can't find a young woman who will travel so far from home. Because notice, they've come a long way. Okay. May I then take Isaac there to live among your relatives? Which is a valid question. That's a really big thing. He didn't say, well, if I can't find one, can I then get one of the local Canaanite women? He still wants to hold firm to what the why is here, what the motivation is, to have a woman from his homeland. But then he says, can I just relocate your son if they won't? Good question, but that shows the intention of not only being faithful, but understanding the reasoning behind that ask of Abraham. So that's really good. Love that question. Abraham answers in verse 6, no, Abraham warned, be careful never to take my son there. Okay? For the Lord, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and my native land, solemnly promised to give this land to my offspring. Okay, so he's spelling out the why. No, you need to keep him here, and this is why. And he again points that to the Lord in his faithfulness and what God is planning to do here. He will send his angel ahead of you, and he will see to it that you will find a young woman there to be my son's wife. If she is unwilling to come back with you, then you are free from this oath. So he gives him this little out there. But he's also saying, God's going to be faithful in this. He's going to send an angel ahead of you. That's a big, big statement right there. If she is unwilling to come back with you, then you are free from this oath. But under no circumstances are you to take my son there. Okay, so don't take my son there. Interesting. Verse 9. So the servant took a solemn oath that he would follow Abraham's instructions. So he does make this solemn oath, okay? He loaded 10 of Abraham's camels with gifts and set out, taking with him the best of everything his master owned, okay? So he's doing this obviously for an offering and to have this, I don't want to call it a trade, but I mean, these are good gifts, and that's kind of how some marriages worked back then, obviously. So good to have those things, but he's taking the best. Again, this kind of brings to mind the first fruits, the best offerings of things. So that's really, really cool. He traveled to Aram Naharaim, and went to the village where Abraham's brother Nahor had settled. So Abraham's brother Nahor is there, okay? which is very interesting. We'll come back to that thought maybe. Verse 11, there the servant made the camels kneel down beside a well just outside the village. It was evening, and the women were coming out to draw water. So you've got this regular practice and custom that the women are coming out to draw water at this well. The servant made all the camels kneel down beside the well. He doesn't give them anything to drink. He just makes them kneel down beside the well. We're going to find out why in just a second at verse 12. But on this little aside, remember before Abraham was Abraham and he was just Abram, he was called to leave his family, to leave his homeland, and to go, obviously. Now that's a really big deal, but it's really interesting to think about the fact that he has this brother, that there is still family in his homeland, and just how differently their relationship with the Lord might be, because you have Abram who turns into Abraham, who's going to be the father of this multitude of nations that God is planning to use, and that has this very close fellowship and relationship with God. That's interesting. I wonder how that's going to play out. I just had to express that real quick. At verse 12, after the servant has had the camels kneel down beside the well, evening, the women are coming out to draw water. At verse 12, O Lord God of my master, he prayed, give me success and show kindness to my master Abraham. So he's saying, give me success, but do this to show a kindness to my master who is your servant, okay? Abraham, help me accomplish the purpose of my journey. Help me to accomplish the purpose of my journey. See, here I am standing beside the spring, and the young women of the village are coming out to draw water. This is my request. I love that he asks this so clearly. This is my request, Lord. I will ask one of them for a drink. If she says, yes, certainly, and I will water your camels too, let her be the one you have appointed as Isaac's wife. By this I will know that you have shown kindness to my master. And that's a really interesting thing. I don't know if you've ever made little deals like that when you're trying to figure things out with the Lord. You're like, Lord, if I go here and, this happens, then I'm going to know that that's from you. I don't know, but I think it's very interesting that he makes this very specific request, and it's such an extra measure that shows her character. I don't know. I really like that he makes that request, but I like that he chooses this way to say, I'm going to know. Because he could have chosen a number of things. Let the first woman that I see that come through here be the one from you. And if I ask her for a drink and she says yes, then that's the one. Like, he could have taken a really simple route, but he said, let it be the one that says yes, and I will water your camels too. Going that extra measure, let that be the one you have appointed. You have appointed. He's trying to take all accountability off of himself, basically, but he's saying, look, I'm going to make a choice, and here's my mission. I want you to show me success in this, to show a kindness to my master. I want to accomplish this purpose, but I want to accomplish with the one that you have appointed. Wow. Man, that's good. By this I will know that you have shown kindness to my master. As he was still praying, at verse 15, a young woman named Rebekah arrived with a water jug on her shoulder. As he was still praying. Look at that timing, man. Her father was Bethuel, who was the son of Abraham's brother Nahor and his wife Milcah. Okay, so, all right, a little bit of a passage there. Now, Rebekah was very beautiful. She was a virgin. No man had slept with her. She went down to the spring, filled her jug, and came up again. Running over to her, the servant asked, please give me a drink. He's ready to put it to the test right off the bat. Certainly, sir, she says at verse 18, and she quickly lowered the jug for him to drink. When he had finished, she said, I'll draw water for your camels too, until they have had enough. Ding! All right, cool. So Verse 20. So she quickly emptied the jug into the watering trough and ran down to the well again. She kept carrying water to the camels until they had finished drinking. So she doesn't just offer that, say, you can use my jug to get some water. Like, she goes and she serves this servant and his camel. She's serving these animals. What a heart. What an extra measure. Fantastic. The servant watched her in silence, wondering whether or not she was the one that the Lord intended him to meet. And I think that that's just a wonderful verse to have recorded there, because he had just prayed this prayer, and he's like, I'm going to know that she's the one that you've appointed if she does this, okay, Lord, help me find success. Show kindness to my master. Serve your servant. Like, it's just great that, like, she pops up as he's praying, like perfect God timing, and then she does all of this and like goes the extra mile, and like he's just watching silently like, okay, I mean, I pray that prayer, we kind of have the agreement, right? But I didn't hear from you, so it's just my side of the agreement. I love that. Maybe you can relate to that, where you're just like, Lord, just give me a sign, and then the sign clearly comes, and then you're like, all right, I mean, is that the sign though? And God's like, sorry. This is great. Lord intended him to meet. Wondering whether or not she was the one the Lord intended him to meet. 22. Then at last, when the camels had finished drinking, he gave her a gold ring for her nose and 2 large gold bracelets for her wrists. Whose daughter are you? He asked. Would your father have any room to put us up for the night? So he gives her these fine gifts. Interesting. My father is Bethuel, she replied. My grandparents are Nahor and Milcah. Yes, we have plenty of straw and food for the camels, and we have room for guests. So he really presses in with this bold ask there. Man, this is good. 26, the man fell down to the ground and worshipped the Lord. Praise be to the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, he said. The Lord has been so kind and faithful to Abraham, for he has led me straight to my master's relatives. He does not waste any time in that praise. It doesn't say whether or not that he does that in front of her, but it says, the man fell right down to the ground and worshiped the Lord. And verse 28, it says, the young woman ran home to tell her family about all that had happened. You could look at that as a sequential thing. He falls down and prays and worships the Lord and says all of this out loud, and then she ran home. Or it could just be like, here's what he did following this, here's what she did. I don't want to, project that into there, but either way, he acknowledges that God has been faithful, and he sees that he's given another blessing to Abraham by leading him straight to his master's relatives. Just fantastic. 28, the young woman ran home to tell her family about all that had happened. Now Rebekah had a brother named Laban. When he saw the nose ring and the bracelets on his sister's wrist, and when he heard her story, he rushed out to the spring where the man was still standing beside his camels. So he sees the nose ring of gold and the bracelets of gold, and he hears the story. He rushes out to the spring, okay? Let's see how this plays out, because I think it's interesting that he saw these worldly treasures and riches, and that's what he took notice of and then ran out. He saw those first, and he heard her story, so he ran down to the spring. The man was still standing beside his camels. Laban said to him, at verse 31, "Come and stay with us, you who are blessed by the Lord." You're clearly blessed by the Lord. You've got these gold things. Why do you stand here outside the village when we have a room all ready for you and a place prepared for the camels? All right, so he's playing a really nice host. And I wonder how much of this is genuine versus how much is just like, oh, you're blessed by the Lord. Yeah, come stay with us. Maybe you'll bless us in some other way. If you're giving out like gold nose rings and bracelets to my sister here for just giving you some water, then yeah, why don't you stay at the house? There's no telling what riches you might give. Again, I'm reading into that, but we'll see how this plays out. So the man went home with Laban, and Laban unloaded the camels, gave him straw to bed them down, fed them, and provided water for the camel drivers to wash their feet. Then supper was served, but Abraham's servant said, I don't want to eat until I have told you why I have come. So two things to point out. One, Laban goes down and then, gets this man here, but then he starts to serve him immediately, okay? Like he is serving and doing all of those things. Supper gets served, and before Abraham allows himself to be served this supper, he has to tell him, I need you to know why I'm here, because he is clearly on this mission, and he does not want to waste any time, obviously, in finding this success and in answering faithfully and continuing this follow through where he's seen the Lord be faithful, I think. That's so good. All right, Laban said, tell us your mission. At verse 34, I am Abraham's servant, he explained, and the Lord has blessed my master richly. He has become a great man. The Lord has given him flocks of sheep and herds of cattle, a fortune in silver and gold, and many servants and camels and donkeys. When Sarah, my master's wife, was very old, she gave birth to my master's son, and my master has given him everything he owns. So I want you to know he's been doing well, you guys. God has blessed him richly. And I know that you're thinking, well, he's very old. Like, where am I just a servant? No, he's got an offspring. She had a child in her very old age. I know, everybody laughed at it. That's why he's named Isaac. And I love that he says, and all of that is going to him. You guys got a rich relative. And my master made me swear that I would not let Isaac marry one of the local Canaanite women. Instead, I was to come to his relatives here in this far-off land to his father's home. I was told to bring back a young woman from here to marry his son, his very wealthy son, his son who is also receiving these blessings now. 39. But suppose I can't find a young woman willing to come back with me, I asked him. You will, he told me, for the Lord, in whose presence I have walked, will send his angel with you and make your mission successful. Yes, you must get a wife for my son from among my relatives and from my father's family. But if you go to my relatives and they refuse to let her come, you will be free from your oath. So he's saying, hey, the ball's in your court. Okay, I've come. I believe that this angel has led me to your daughter, which I think is what he's probably about to say. He's saying, here's my mission, and here's my ties to it. If this doesn't work and you guys aren't in, then I'm out. I love that. He's very plain in explaining all of these things. Good backstory here. Verse 42. So this afternoon, when I came to the spring, I prayed this prayer. And here's how he's saying, and here's how I know that God was with me and Abraham was right. O Lord, the God of my master Abraham, if you are planning to make my mission a success, please guide me in a special way. Here I am standing beside the spring. I will say to some young woman who comes to draw water, please give me a drink of water. And she will reply, certainly, and I'll water your camels too. Lord, let her be the one that you have selected to be the wife of my master's son. The one you've selected, the one you've appointed. He's like, I had this prayer and this conversation. Before I had finished praying these words, I saw Rebecca coming along with her water jug on her shoulder. So he's like, your daughter is the one that came, okay? Rebecca is the one that came. She went down to the spring, drew water, filled the jug. So I said to her, please give me a drink. She quickly lowered the jug from her shoulder so I could drink. And she said, certainly, sir, and I will water your camels too. And she did. When I asked her whose daughter she was, she told me, my father is Bethuel, the son of Nahor, and his wife Milcah. So I gave her the ring and the bracelets. Then I bowed my head and worshipped the Lord. I praised the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, because he had led me along the right path to find a wife from the family of my master's relatives. So tell me, will you or won't you show the true kindness to my master? When you tell me, then I'll know what my next step should be, whether to move this way or that. So he's saying, now you know the story, what's your answer? I need to know so I can know what my next step is. But I've been on this straight path and this right path, and God is the one that led me here, and Abraham is the one who said that he would do that, and it led me to Rebecca. What say you? Man, that's good. So tell me, will you or won't you show true kindness to my master? When you tell me, then I'll know what my next step should be, whether to move this way or that. He's still like, I got to get all this out before I serve myself, before I feed myself, because I have a mission. And I love that he's putting that before these other things. That's so good. Verse 50, then Laban and Bethuel replied, the Lord has obviously brought you here, so what can we say? That's so good. Here is Rebekah. Take her and go. Yes, let her be the wife of your master's son, as the Lord has directed. So they have a reverence, at least, for God. And they don't doubt this story. They say, yes, go ahead and do that. What can we say? You know, the Lord directed this, so we're not going to go against that. I love that. At this reply, Abraham's servant bowed to the ground and worshiped the Lord. Again, God follows through, and this fitting response from us is like just bowing down and just worship and praise and thanks. I love that he's doing it so openly and so immediately as well, not wasting these opportunities. I love the heart of this servant. Then he brought out silver and gold, jewelry, and lovely clothing for Rebekah. He also gave valuable presents to her mother and brother. So Laban's like, kitching. Then they had supper, and the servant and the men with them stayed there overnight. But early the next morning he said, send me back to my master. He's ready to bring her back. 55. But we want Rebekah to stay at least 10 days, her brother and mother said. Then she can go. Notice this is Laban and the mother. Then she can go. We want her to stay for 10 days. Okay? But he said, don't hinder my return. The Lord has made my mission successful. I want to report back to my master. 57. Well, they said, we'll call Rebekah and ask her what she thinks. So they called Rebekah. Are you willing to go with this man? They asked her. And she replied, yes, I will go. So they said goodbye to Rebekah, and they sent her away with Abraham's servant and his men. The woman who had been Rebekah's childhood nurse went along with her. All right. That's very interesting. She's not going completely alone. I love that this childhood nurse, this one that she has this relationship with and that's been with her, that she went along with her. They said goodbye, and that they actually asked her what she thinks. That's a big, big deal, because they talked about what they want. We want her to stay at least 10 days. And the servant's replying with, like, don't hinder this. Like, Lord's made my mission successful. I want to report back to my master. So we'll call her and ask her what she thinks. Okay? I love that they do that. They did not have to do that. And that's a really big deal. But I love that she's going with this childhood nurse. She's not going alone and with just this strange servant. Good. They blessed her with this blessing as she parted. So here again, it shows not only a reverence for the Lord, but it shows this habit of blessing, which was, whether you were a person of faith or not, there are these blessings that you kind of impart to people. So I think that's interesting. They blessed her with this blessing as she parted. Our sister, may you become the mother of many millions. May your descendants overcome all their enemies. So it's just a basic person-to-person blessing. This isn't a, oh Lord, will you please show favor upon, may this happen in your name, oh Lord. They just say, may this happen. In any of the other translations, just making sure. Thou art our sister, be thou the mother of thousands of millions. Let thy seed possess the gate of those which hate them. Nope, nothing mentioned about God there. But that's okay. The servant of Abraham is clearly with her and with the Lord, and has led her and him to have this meeting and to make this mission successful. Verse 61, then Rebekah and her servants mounted the camels and left with Abraham's servant. Rebekah and her servants mounted the camels and left with Abraham's servant. Again, not going alone. Meanwhile, Isaac, whose home was in the Negev, had returned from Beer Lahairoi. One evening he was taking a walk out in the fields, meditating. He looked up and saw the camels coming. Okay. When Rebekah looked up and saw Isaac, she quickly dismounted. "Who is that man walking through the fields to meet us?" she asked the servant. He replied, "It is my master." So Rebekah covered her face with her veil. Then the servant told Isaac the whole story. And Isaac brought Rebekah into his mother's tent, and she became his wife. He loved her very much, and she was a special comfort to him after the death of his mother. Man, interesting details there. I love how it kind of plays out, like the music stops and then kind of the slow motion glances with this deal. Her covering her face with a veil is really interesting. Isaac hears this whole story, so he realizes, and she realizes, this is something that has been appointed by God. But I love that you have this. They didn't just follow through and then like they're husband and wife and they've sealed the deal clearly. But like it's got that extra addition here, which I think is really important to note. He loved her very much. Like Isaac loved her. They were stirred to this deeper, like, whoa, what is this? And I think that that's so beautiful to note, that there wasn't just a provision of like this arranged marriage that needed to happen, that there was love, that God would stir them to this potential of love, and she was a special comfort to him after the death of his mother, because like God didn't have to do that. It could have just been like, cool, she's going to be fruitful, and you're going to be fruitful with her, and it's going to be good because you'll still be my people, and you won't be tainted by this Canaanite thing. You won't have these cross tribes that are going to start to really question the inheritance thing and the faithful covenants that I have made with your ancestors. This works out good, but I've also worked it out. I believe that God has worked it out, that they would be able to experience love and comfort one another. But man, that is so beautiful, that we see, another picture of marriage, but specifically one where there is love and there is a comfort to one another, and then there's a genuine interest and not just in the idea of multiplying. There's so much more to that. So I love that, and I love that we get to experience love, and I hope that you realize that's a gift from God too. And yeah, man, so good. A lot of different things going on there. Sorry if I treated Laban a little too poorly there, but I don't know. Just kind of reading into that a little bit. I guess I didn't need to do that, but that's how it struck me. And again, I'm trying to just say face value. That's what we get. But again, the reason to do this is not just so that we can say, oh, that's a cool little detail that I've missed before. It's so that I can draw out as much as I can, and hopefully you're drawing things out, things are popping out to you. But specifically, the whole idea of this is to find out more about God and His character and the patterns that He has established that might even be continuing today. So this puts us all the way through Genesis 24, and now we're going to move to Genesis 25, which puts us halfway through Genesis. I'll see you there.